Where I grew up in a quiet, isolated corner of Idaho, the darkness wasn't just the absence of light. It was a listening thing, a waiting thing that carried consequences if ignored. And it had rules. Old ones passed down through the whispers of loving parents and elders for generations. Rules like, do not whistle at night. Do not welcome things from the night into your home. And whatever you do, never, ever give the darkness your name. Tonight's story is about the sheer terror of what may happen if you forget those rules, and the horrifying moment when the ancient legends, the ones you feared as a child, finally stop being legends. Welcome to Dust and Echoes. My name is James Colley, and every week I bring you a new original story. Stories drawn from that strange place where memory, myth, and the things we try not to name all intersect. If you enjoy what you hear, leaving a review helps more than you know. Tonight's story takes us into the deep, empty silence of the Utah desert, where a traveler is seeking solitude and disconnection, only to find he is far from alone. This is a story about the psychological siege of isolation and straying from the rules you were taught to follow as a child, and what happens when you realize the darkness outside already knows your name. I call this story Skinwalker. He found the turnoff by accident, a pale twin pair of tire scars peeling away from the Burr Trail like a secret. The main road was an empty ribbon between black cliffs. The two-track, rarely used dirt road stretched out into open country until the slick rock rose like the backs of old whales and the sand turned fine and pale. He parked in a shallow basin ringed by low juniper and the humps of stone. Miles of sky. The kind of place where you could feel the weight of the silence and emptiness all around you. He killed the engine, and the world got bigger. A slight breath of wind moved through the brush, a dry whisper. He set his small tent on a patch of level dirt under an old gnarled juniper tree, its dead branches reaching toward the sky like skeleton arms. His tent stakes bit into the sandy desert ground. Only one cloud that worried him. The forecast said no rain, but he stretched the rainfly over the mesh of the tent just to be safe. The pastel light of the fading desert day gave way to a solemn blue hour. He made a meal using his camp stove, boiled water mixed in a dehydrated food packet labeled chicken teriyaki. But he knew from experience they all tasted just about the same, but the comfort of the warm, salty slop was just what he needed after too many miles of washboard dirt roads. He enjoyed the silence, the beauty of the empty desert as it closed its eyes on the hot day. He didn't even bother to check his phone, knowing there would be no bars anyway. That was the point of his coming out this far and finding the most secluded, remote, and hard-to-reach place he could find. He'd told himself he wanted to be alone, with nothing but the stars and the sound of his own breathing. A place to disconnect in an attempt to reconnect with himself. After dark, the sky erupted in glowing stars. So many points of light he lost the shapes he thought he knew. The ground held warmth, but the sand released it after an hour, as if exhaling. He lay on his back inside the tent and listened. A soft wind sliding between the skeletal juniper branches overhead. The nylon's gentle shiver when it found a seam in the night air. Enveloped inside the unbroken silence, he entered sleep slowly, as if in participating in an ancient ritual, his eyes closing as he took in the night air. But then, out of nowhere, instinctively his skin formed goosebumps. His eyes opened wide in the darkness. Even though it was still quiet, something inside him went into alarm mode. He held his breath and listened. Just when he was about to exhale, he heard it. "Hey," a voice said softly outside the tent. Can you help me? He did not move. The word hey hung wrong, stretched in the middle, like the speaker wasn't sure how long to make it. Like someone pronouncing a word they have never heard, said aloud. Please? Softer now. I'm hurt. The nylon of the tent fabric glowed faintly with starlight as he looked up, silent and now frozen in place by the sudden intrusion. He could make out the curve of the mesh above him, the little loop where a light could hang, and the faint shadow of the old juniper above his tent. He waited, pretending to be asleep. He suddenly felt like he was submerged at the bottom of a black sea, unable to seek help, as he was now fully aware of the distance of his isolation in this canyon. His lips would not work. His eyes jumped to follow the shadow moving on the walls of his tent for clues to his night intruder's intentions. Then footsteps. Slow at first, as if creeping towards the back side of his tent, but then the sound of running away from his tent. He felt relief and guilt. He considered that someone lost might need help since he had not seen another main road, car, or sign of people for hours. But the voice was strange, and approaching someone's tent in the darkness was even weirder, especially way out here. He decided he should peek outside the tent as he heard them run away. He wanted to make sure they were not messing with his truck, thinking no one was inside the tent. If they looked normal, maybe he could help them if he could. That word, normal, stuck in his thoughts. That voice was not normal. Just as he began unzipping the tent, he had another silent warning, a wave of alarm. Heart racing and nerves suddenly on fire, anxiety standing on edge. He followed these instincts, trusting in it might be better to call out first instead. Hey, are you still there? He asked quietly into the night with his face near the zipper.
Yes!
I'm still here. The voice said this in an unnatural tone a half-inch from his face. Too close. His instincts were right. Whoever was out there was trying to trick him into thinking they had left. But they were out there, waiting. If he had pulled back that zipper, he would have seen a face directly in front of him. He leaned back, startled, as a face from the other side pressed into the fabric of the tent. He could see its lips and jaw moving, talking through the stretched fabric pressing in toward him. The face began twisting and turning unnaturally sideways as it spoke. Howdy.
Came off the road
doing all the hiking, you know it? I fell down. Oopsie. Ankle is all crushed up.
Very bad.
Open up in there, dear. We can talk about it face to
Face.
He pictured the basin in moonlight. The very long two-track that resembled a faded scar dragging through sage and sand, almost invisibly, for miles back to the main road. If someone had stumbled off the main road and made it out this far, but then he stopped that thought. Nobody would have stumbled out this far by accident. When he drove the road in, he could tell no one had traveled it for a very long time. There were no other tire treads and sage growing in the ruts on the way out. The route to his remote campsite was not well traveled, they'd be obvious. He had not seen anyone else. Something was off. Maybe this person was suffering from heat stroke or mental health issues. Either way, his instincts kicked in again, and he decided the best thing he could do was play it cool. He gathered his voice to make sure it didn't crack and spoke. "What's your name? What can I do to help you?" he said. A pause, as if the night had to spool up the answer. "Jeffrey." He waited. Nothing. "What's your last name, Jeffrey?" Another pause, longer, like someone turning pages in their head. "Please," the voice said. Please, I just need help." He closed his eyes, and another warning from his childhood flashed into his mind. His mother was part Navajo, and had spent summers in desert country down in New Mexico with her grandfather, who still lived in the old way. No power in drawing water carried from communal wells. His mother told him that grandfather had strange, strict rules that frightened her. Memory flashed as he remembered his mother telling him about this warning and stories. He remembers laughing when she told him these old stories. Or were they warnings? She laughed too, but there was something in her eyes that scared him. She told him things her grandfather told her, like, never whistle after dark, do not give your name to the night, and never, ever speak to something that speaks to you from outside after dusk. His stomach rolled, and he knew that remembering the story was another of his instincts kicking in. A story she had told him long ago to prepare him for this exact night somehow. He did not respond. He pulled his sleeping bag over his head and sat in the middle of the tent, keeping as far away from the walls as he could, sitting in the awkward silence as his face peeked from within the darkness of the bag. The zipper was within reach. Slowly, he could lean forward and unzip it silently. Just enough to peek. He could open it. He chose not to. He was now frozen with fear. "Help me," the voice said. Closer again, breath laying against the nylon so gently, the fabric trembled. "I'm cold. I came from the trail. I got turned around." Without thinking, he spoke back. "Nobody hikes this trail at night," he whispered, then regretted it. "Yes," the voice said. "Yes. It stuttered, broke, then smoothed again. I did. I do. I will. Always hike the night. Please open and help me." He held back a surprised scream as he felt the pressure from a fingertip, a single, slow poke. He looked down to see the nylon stretched inwards towards him. A single finger was pushing in on the tent's fabric. It was at least a foot long, and it had too many knuckles. His blood froze cold as he watched it jab at his side. Slow at first. Then like it meant to hurt. And it did. He didn't move. He didn't breathe. He just watched the grotesque, unnatural shape and hoped the tent's fabric would not tear. He didn't want to see what that finger looked like. Its image in his imagination was already bad enough. He bit the inside of his cheek until he tasted the metallic tinge of blood. The finger retreated. "Go to your car," the voice said suddenly with a bubbly hiccup of a laugh, almost cheerful, like it had spotted a solution. "You can drive us. I won't even talk your ear off." The long finger jabbed him again, hard. "Stop! I will not leave this tent!" he screamed. But the shake in his voice gave him away. He had not meant to speak to it again, but that laugh, that awful, strange little laugh, it broke him. The finger slowly retreated. His truck was 20, or was it 50 feet away? His instincts told him he would not make it that far with whatever was outside. He had a vague sense of safety inside the tent. If whatever was out there really wanted to hurt him, what was stopping it from ripping its way inside? It would have done it. Either it was toying with him, or it couldn't get in without him letting it. The footsteps started then. Not steps exactly. Weight testing the sand, then lifting. A careful circle. He felt the presence move, not by sound alone, but by the way the air changed, the way the tiny hairs on his forearms followed something he couldn't see. It went around and around, humming sometimes. Tones that missed human by a note. The hum slipped into words, then into something else. A coyote would have made sense out here. This wasn't a coyote. It wasn't anything that belonged in the world that he knew. "Do you have water?" it asked brightly, as if they were two strangers at a trailhead parking lot. "I think I am dehydrated. I think I am bleeding." A brief laugh followed that statement as if it was funny. A giggle sound that had no place in the situation. He pressed his eyes shut and counted to 20 to keep the panic down. When the counting broke, the zipper tab clicked against itself. His heart climbed his throat. The voice leaned in again, a whisper pressed to fabric directed at his ear. "Oh, you could scream," it said, almost gently. "Oh, yes, sirree. You could scream for hours and hours and hours out here. You think someone would come? Why don't you try? You'll feel much better." This statement echoed again in the little cute giggle. His breath caught in his lungs. He could hear it whispering something to itself over and over. Words, but they didn't sound like English. The whisper turned, the sound slid away. Whatever was out there fell back into the basin, and then it started screaming. It wasn't one scream, it was a stack of them, different throats welded together. Woman. Man. A child's broken whistle of fear. A low animal bellow. And it went on, the sound pouring up and until the stars themselves felt farther away. The tent vibrated. He pressed his palms over his ears and felt the sound anyway in his teeth and in his ribs. It continued for what felt like forever, proving its point. The screaming stopped on a hinge. The quiet that followed was a new kind of loud. Then, the whisper returned, lips flattening the nylon of the tent, pressing inwards towards him inches away. "Nobody will hear you." His throat worked. He couldn't swallow. The thing shifted gears, saying his name, and he didn't know how it knew it. He had not given it. It whispered it, the way someone who loves you would say it in the morning. It then used his father's voice.
"Get out here, boy. Now, just come on out. Stop acting like a sissy."
Then he could hear his own voice, amused and tired. "I think I'll come out. Maybe go check into a motel." Then a voice he had forgotten until it arrived, tones shifting into the voice of a woman he'd left last year. His stubbornness after a fight he now regretted daily. She said his name the way she used to before the fights and tension ruined the love they had built. "You abandoned me, but we can fix everything if you come out." He cried, trying not to make a sound, biting into the sleeping bag. He did not speak and did not move. His mind shifted to time, to hours. The darkness receded, and how if he could wait, the sun would blaze over the sandstone horizon. Daylight was coming, as if the thing outside could read his thoughts, and he somehow knew it could. It said, "Waiting," as if tasting the shape of the word. "You're waiting. Many have held on to that hope before you, sweet, sweet. Do you know how many have made it? Do you know how long I can wait?" It leaned in once again, dark, misshapen form pushing in on him. "Oh, baby, sweet, sweet. All I got's me out here is time." He thought of the road and the fact that roads weren't promises. He thought of the narrow slot canyons a few miles south that swallowed daylight even at noon, the abandoned mines dotting the valley as he entered. He thought about running and trying to hide. If he went for the car, he could be at the driver's side in 3 heartbeats. Well, that was if his key didn't slip and found the old keyhole true in the dark. If nothing snagged the zipper. If the thing didn't step between him and the handle, claw his side as he ran for it. "You won't make it," the voice said with soft sympathy, answering the shape and weight of his thought. "But I would like to watch you try." His stomach turned as he cowered inside his sleeping bag. Stop thinking. Don't give it anything more. If your legs cramp, do not move. When you have to vomit, turn your head and do it as quietly as you can. If the tent collapses, hold it like a shroud and stay inside the cloth. Just hold on until daylight. Hold, hold, Hold. Outside, something paced. Something far larger than a hand pressed in through the tent and touched him softly. He could feel the bone structure of the thing where it touched. Way too big, too long, too many fingers. It then spoke like a friend he had in college who died, like a bishop at church he once disappointed after a high school dance, like a cop with a flashlight ordering him to stop playing games and get outside. The thing asked him where he was from and then told him it was from there too. It told him a joke, but told it wrong. Then corrected itself. Then told it wrong the same way again. At some point, the edge of the world shifted tone. He felt it before he saw it. A thinning of the blackness outside giving way to a softer tone. The voice went quiet. The pacing stopped. He could hear his own pulse and a tiny thread of wind that smelled like dust and something sweet from the brush. "Are you counting on that?" the voice said at last. It sounded almost curious. Close. Very close. As if it lay down beside him with only a handful of fabric between. "So many think that will make me leave. But I love sunrises. We can watch it together." It laughed. He waited. He fixed his eyes on the zipper. The gray at the teeth grew clearer. He didn't move, did not blink, while praying to everything he believed and even the things he had left behind. Outside, something exhaled, long and delighted, as if savoring the last minutes of a game. Then silence again, the kind that had weight. He counted to calm himself and to keep his mind quiet. He waited, and waited for the color to change, for the fabric to admit one honest shade of day. The voice did not speak again. He sat in the blooming tones of sunrise, quiet, focused, and exhausted. A new sound, a vehicle far in the distance on the Burr Trail. Another person somewhere in the distance snapped his eyes awake. It was full daylight now. Had he somehow fallen asleep? If he had one chance to escape, this was it. The sound of the other car, even though far away, gave him hope. His fingers reached for the zipper, and he could feel every tooth unlocking as it slid. His face emerged into daylight, the old juniper above him, and the sound of morning birds in the distance. He didn't see any sign of what had been outside his tent all night. He ran, key out, and pointed at the door. In a single motion, unlocking the door and sliding inside while slamming the door behind him. The vehicle started instantly, and air conditioning started blowing, calming his nerves. He exhaled and rethought packing up his tent. So it was all just a bad dream. But just then, a giggle of a laugh emerged from between that small space between the seat and the back window. An unnatural cracking sound as something unfolded from that impossibly small space and ripped lips brushed into his ear, damp, rotted, and amused. His eyes flicked to the rearview mirror. What he saw, unnaturally just behind him, peering back at him with dark, sharp teeth, turned his intestines to liquid. It smiled at him, and before what happened next, all he could think was to scream his mother's name. That was Skinwalker. Written and performed by the author, me, James Cawley. The light of day does not always chase away the darkness, friends. Sometimes, the most patient evil simply changes its strategy, waiting for the moment you finally relax. The true lesson of this story isn't in locking the door, it's in ensuring that the faith, knowledge, and hope you carry remain untainted. My name is James Cawley, and you're listening to Dust and Echoes. If you like stories like this, stories that linger like a bad memory, challenge the meaning of refuge, and remind us the quietest horrors are often the deadliest, then you're in the right place. Make sure to check out my YouTube channel where I bring some of these stories to life. You can find a direct link on my website, at enterthedust.com. Like always, I'll be waiting for you right here next week with a new original story, and I think you'll love the next one. Until next time, remember this: the darkness holds many deceptions. Do not mistake its patience for peace.